-3. That is not the spread. That is the temperature in Buffalo right now with the wind chill. We're going to go over the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buccaneers hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. Welcome to Prop It Up. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com, being joined, as always, by my fellow prop master, Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. Andrew, the football gods have given us 2 games on this Monday. We're going to break it down. So let's just get right into it. Steelers at the Bills. We've got this game that got moved because of the weather, and the weather is not that much better. It looks like it's not going to be snowing too much during the game, but it is going to be very cold. The wind is going to be a lot less than it was yesterday. It looks like sustained around 10, 15 miles an hour with gusts up to 25 miles an hour. So a little bit of an adjustment on our prop plays. Let's talk this one out. Steelers at the Bills. What do you like props-wise in this game?
Yeah, here we are, Andy. Good to be here with you on a Monday. And I'll tell you, I got into it with a fan on Twitter this weekend, as I usually do, it seems. And I said, if they knew the weather was going to be that bad, why not postpone it ahead of time? And they said, well, we didn't know it was going to be that bad. And I guess it makes sense by looking at the snow and how, I had to hire fans to go out there and shovel. But I like a lot of the same stuff I mentioned to you last week on Friday, but a couple new things as well. Look, one thing that you can do when you're watching other games is kind of teach you something that might make you like a play for the next game. And when I watched Dak Prescott play against my Green Bay Packers yesterday, I learned how much softer he is than some of the other quarterbacks in the league. And watching him not be willing to ever absorb any contact, ever really get on his feet, ever really run the ball longer than, 4 or 5 yards, it made me want to look towards Josh Allen over 38.5 rushing yards. Obviously, he's a red zone threat. That's where he gets some of his rushing yards as well. He has no problem holding onto the ball himself and taking it into the end zone. But finished the regular season on a pretty good note. And I think that looking against that Dolphins game, 15 carries for 67 yards. When I went through the list and I saw the games that mattered the most, the big games, Andy, that's when he ran the most. The games that were against competitive teams, obviously this is a decent sized point spread here, but it's a playoff game. I'm locked in just like I was on Friday on Josh Allen touchdown score, but I've added to the portfolio with Josh Allen over on his rushing yards as a whole altogether. And then I mentioned this last week about the Warren receiving yards and Najee rush attempts or rushing yards. It's been a very clear divide. And the Steelers actually have given up a decent amount of receiving yards to opposing teams' running backs. So Jaylen Warren over his receiving yards, I think is a really good number. Bills are giving up over 40 yards receiving to opposing teams' running backs. So it's good to look at there. And then, like I said, the Najee rushing attempts is kind of what's been the play. But in a game like this, can we really trust it? If they go down, they probably have to abandon the run game. And then I want to throw it back to you about your thoughts, of course, and anything you really think about Pickens, because I looked at Pickens on Friday. I was talking about him, and I kind of looked over it, but you replied to my tweet over the weekend about just being selective and how that's profitable. And I'm kind of scared to play any receivers on this Steelers team, Andy. I'm kind of comfortable with how I feel about the running back situation.
Yeah, the tweet you were talking about. You said you kept it simple, one play, you won, and yeah, simple equals profitable, man. It's amazing. It really does. Like, I feel sometimes it's so easy to get too cute and too complicated in this industry, and keeping it simple works. I'm with you 100% on Najee Harris. I forgot about their game against Baltimore, where the weather was terrible, and Najee Harris had 26 carries. So they set this number at 16.5. And I will also ask you this, Andrew. So the spread is like 10 points. Like, who are the Buffalo Bills to be laying that many points in a game with this bad of weather? Isn't the weather kind of one of the big equalizers? I mean, how many times have we watched Josh Allen have bad turnovers? And we just watched the Steelers play in a game with bad weather, and I know it was against the backups, mostly of Baltimore, but they get the win. So they might be a little bit used to it. I'm with you on Josh Allen. I took a different approach. I did the rush attempts. DraftKings has it at 9.5 at plus money. FanDuel has kept it at 8.5. So I actually put in last night Josh Allen over 8.5 rush attempts. That's a small client play. As you mentioned, 15 rush attempts last week, 11 before that, and he's going to be their best weapon. Leonard Fournette last week only had 7 carries. James Cook only 15. It's like they don't, I think he only had 13 carries. It's like they don't totally trust their running backs. They trust Josh Allen a little bit more. And in the playoffs, like you said, who are you going to trust? James Cook, Leonard Fournette, or Josh Allen? It's going to be Josh Allen. So there was one that now that the wind has died down quite a bit, believe it or not, I'm looking at Mason Rudolph over 16.5 pass completions. He's done this in all 3 of his starts. He was 17 of 27 against Cincinnati, 18 of 24 against Seattle, and then last week, 18 of 20. In those conditions, 18 of 20. And like you said, if Buffalo does get up, if they do get the lead and they get away from Najee Harris, you could be looking at Mason Rudolph, who has to throw it a little bit. There's going to be a lot of short passes. There's going to be dump offs to Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. And, Freiermuth could have a decent little game. And, Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, they do have pretty good hands. They don't have a whole lot of drops. So maybe this might be a good opportunity to take Mason Rudolph over a very low number. I was surprised that his pass attempts are 27.5, but his completions are only 16.5. So I think there's some value here on Mason Rudolph over his over his pass completions here. So I don't know, Andrew. Do you think this is a lot closer than people think? Because I look at the spread and I look at the weather and I go, well, why would I if I'm struggling to trust Josh Allen and these Bills throughout the regular season? I mean, they needed a punt return for a touchdown against Miami. Like, why are we just penciling in that this is just going to be a blowout for Buffalo? Like, I don't know. Am I wrong here?
You're certainly not wrong. I mean, based on what we've seen this season, I don't think we've seen have too much evidence. Obviously, the Bills coming in here with momentum. Nobody, there were bets, Andy. You could get them, at one point, like at a minus price to miss the playoffs, and then they go out and win the division. They're in this position that they're in right now. But when I look at this game, I really think that even though there's still so much snow and the weather's not great, I think it would have been more beneficial for the Steelers on Saturday. Or yesterday, excuse me. I think it would have been better. But at the same time, it's all about the run game for me. It's all about the dink and dunk. Like, I like the completions prop for me with Rudolph. I think it's a really good call by you. I would look at that one, 10 times out of 10 over the passing yards number, just because I think we do expect, and obviously, I like the receiving yards for the running backs. They just can't fall behind early. They need to get a slither of confidence. Like, I mentioned yesterday to a couple of my friends, and I'm not trying to bring up my Packers again, but I am, how they elected to receive the ball with the coin toss. And I thought that was quite interesting. They were like, you know what? We don't want to have to go out there and get a stop or go out there and watch the Cowboys get the lead. We want to go out and get the lead ourselves and kind of get momentum. It's really important to me how this Steelers team starts things out. But I agree. I can't see this game being a blowout.
Who's more happy, Packers fans or Stephen A. Smith today? I think it's got to be. I think it's got to be Stephen A. Smith. It's his best day of the year. He gets to come on TV and talk about the Cowboys there. So yeah, Steelers and Bills, middle of the day. I'm looking forward to it. I love kind of when these sports are on at weird times. Like today is just hog heaven for me. We got hockey all day, NBA, football. This is a great day. I only have
great
one
Monday.
thing that's up for sale. Yeah, it's a great Monday. Only one thing up. I have an NFL and NHL pack that is up right now. We've got a prop for a player not to score a point, 14-4 on those, and 43-23 in the NFL. So if you want to grab that at WagerTalk.com. Andrew, let's move to Eagles and Buccaneers. Tell us what you have up on this beautiful Monday, where we can find you at, and then let's talk Eagles and Buccaneers.
Locked and loaded, Andy. 5% play in the NFL for tonight. So really excited about it. It was a quiet but undefeated weekend for me this weekend in the NFL. So excited. It was mostly smaller plays, no big ones, but stepping out with a big play, 5% tonight in the NFL. And actually have a promo code for you guys that I just received live here on the show. And it is PUNT20 to take $20 off my 5% play. That's PUNT20. And as you mentioned, we got hockey all day long, so I cannot wait for that. I'll start things off, Andy, with pretty much a simple one. And, I know that some people love these plus price touchdown props, right? I mean, I see some people on Twitter that, pretty much bet every guy to score a touchdown, then they brag when they hit one. Well, I don't really know how that's really capping if you're taking every single guy. I'm just going to take Jalen Hurts to get a touchdown, all right? Him and Josh Allen were tied with 11 on the season. If it's not broken, don't try and fix it. You talked about a team being scared to give the ball to their running backs. I don't think the Eagles are. I just think they're confident with Hurts when they're at a certain position. Like if you have a touchdown scoring prop for running backs with the Eagles, you want them to be like 5 or 6 yards back. If it's like goal line or 2 or 3 yards, good luck. Good luck getting your running back. I mean, you're better off having Hurts to get his touchdown prop. So I look towards that. And speaking of keeping it simple, stupid, there's two that I like. Goddard receptions over. And then I'm curious what you're going to think about this, Andy, but I gotta go with Smith over receiving yards. No AJ Brown. I know there's going to be a lot of attention on him, but looking at some of these games that these guys have had, really what happens is I know one guy could be a decoy and the other guy has a good game and things like that. But it seems to me anyway, you look throughout the entire season, one guy had a great game. The other guy had a not so great game. Now there's just one guy. Like even if he gets a lot of attention, double coverage, his number to me is only in the late 60s. He's going to have a great game. He's going to get the attention. And what I love about him the most is that you don't need even a ton of receptions. He can get you halfway there on, 2 or 3 receptions. I like that about him the most. And I do like the fact that, they're going to have some time to prepare, and they didn't wait till the last second to announce that AJ Brown was going to be out. Rachaad White receiving yards. I mean, the number we've seen from him, you can't really go away from it. It's 31. We saw it miss last time around, but we saw 38 against Jacksonville, 50 against Green Bay. This guy's putting up some decent numbers, also getting a ton of receptions. This Eagles team comparatively against the run, not too bad, but against the pass, not as good. So something I want to fade. And then last but certainly not least, I think you kind of have to look towards Baker Mayfield over on attempts. I just think that they're going to have to throw the ball a ton. I think that the game script, even when they are kind of utilizing their running backs, is going to be in the receiving game in general. And look at the season he's had. They're going to live by the sword, die by the sword. They got here with Baker Mayfield. They're going to either move on or go home with Baker Mayfield. So you talked last time around with Mason Rudolph with completions. I think with Baker, it's all about the attempts prop for him.
Yeah, you mentioned Dallas Goedert. I wrote down yards here, over 49.5. The Buccaneers, they're bad against tight ends. 64 yards, 6 catches per game. So the tight ends are definitely a really good spot for the Eagles. So Goddard could have a good one. I don't know. No AJ Brown. Is it ridiculous to take Julio Jones over 1.5 receptions? I don't know. He's had 2. He's had 2 in 2 out of 3 games. Producer Dan, huge Philadelphia Eagles. I would say fan and expert. He's been lights out predicting the Eagles. Yeah, maybe Julio Jones gets a couple catches without AJ Brown there. So I like your Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown. It's playoff time. There's no screwing around here. You get in close, they're going to run the ball for sure. And I talked about Rachaad White and really liking his rushing. It's 63.5. This rushing defense was so bad at the end of the year, but I go back to the middle and the beginning of the year when they were at one point were the number 1 rush defense. I wonder if they just turn it up a notch and it's playoff time and they say, you know what, we're going back to this. And that would lead into your Baker Mayfield. I think that's one of my favorite plays that you've brought up is the Baker Mayfield pass attempts. He's always hovering around this number. 32 attempts in that dominating win against Carolina, 9-0. You always like to come into the playoffs with a 9-0 win, Andrew. But before that, 33, 35. And you look at some of these games that were really close. I mean, there's 45 attempts against San Francisco, 42 against Buffalo, 42 against Atlanta, 37. So again, it's playoffs. We know he's hurt. He's playing banged up, but there's what are you saving yourself for? So I think the stars shine, and I think you're right about this one. Team totals, Andrew, real quick. I was going to bring up that you can get the Buccaneers at 20.5. I'm kind of intrigued by that one. 3 touchdowns. This is a Buccaneers team that they're obviously not going to give up to the end. You can throw on the Eagles, even if the Eagles do show up and they get back to their form. It still doesn't change the fact their secondary is not very good. 20.5. It's only minus 105. Can I talk you into Buccaneers at home getting to 3 touchdowns, even though they only scored 9 points last week?
I was about to say, you made a joke about what they did last week, and then you're offering me you're selling me on an over here with them. Well, that's just the thing. Is like this Eagles team, sure, they limped into the playoffs, but a lot of people aren't really going to look at too that it's not like the Buccaneers were like showcasing in these great like fashion. Look what they did against the New Orleans Saints. But I agree. I think overall, I think this game is an over game. I think we could see points in this one. 20.5. I could be convinced with that, Andy. I could, but I think that if I'm looking at that again, you might as well just look towards the Baker attempts. They're not going to get there by running the ball all day. They're not going to blow out the Eagles. So I think if I was looking at that prop in general or that team total, I think you and I are just spot on with that attempts prop for Baker.
Yeah, and we just talked about keeping it simple. Maybe that's all we need in that one. Just cash that one prop on Baker over his attempts, and maybe just get out of Dodge and take the one play, and hopefully that hits. So, all right, guys, 2 games today. It's going to be a cold one. If you're watching this and you happen to be in Buffalo and you're going to the game, be careful out there. And guys, remember, you do not have to bet your entire bankroll on Monday playoff games. Please exercise a bankroll responsibility. There are a ton of games. Protect those profits. Make sure you don't overexpose yourself with too many units. There's a ton of NHL games, NBA games, NFL games. It should be a great day for watching, but let's bet responsibly as always. Andrew, one more time, tell everyone about that promo code you have and your best bet that's up for today.
Promo code PUNT20 takes $20 off my 5% NFL play today. Undefeated this past weekend in Wildcard weekend. Looking forward to hopefully ending things off on a great note. We'll have a few props going on as well. And I will say, Andy, since you mentioned it, that Julio Jones one's making the client card. It has to. It's a great number, man. Hasn't even gotten adjusted yet. Give me Julio all day long. But guys, punt 20. And I got to say, Andy, it was a really enjoyable show Friday. I really appreciate all the feedback, the comments, the likes, especially on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days. People were really receptive to the show, and I thought we gave out some winners on Friday, so hopefully we can do it again today.
Yeah, let's do it again, guys. Give us a like and tell us your best bet for today in the NFL. If you like any other props in NBA or NHL, leave those as well. You guys know Andrew and I love looking at those NHL props. So let's have a warm and profitable Monday. Good luck on all your plays, and we will see everyone Friday on Prop It Up.